Water Board meeting. I will call the Select Board meeting to order at 6:37 on Monday, September 15th, 2004. First off, does anyone have a conflict of interest with anything appearing on the agenda tonight?
Nope.
Nope. Approval of minutes. We have minutes from 8:25 and, 8:25. I believe I made just a couple of adjustments. I added some names of attendees, a little bit of wording there. Talking about the North Bennington Water Department lands, Bill Fisk chose not to include this value in calculating the rate as calculated tax rate as collection is uncertain. I was just explaining the rest of that sentence. It seemed like it got cut off. Tim Scoggins' motion to set the tax rate for fiscal year 2014-15 at, just a little bit of clarification there. In town plan hearing, this is the final hearing for the town plan. There have been 2 select board hearings prior to this one, as well as 2 planning commission hearings. 2 maps were edited in the last copy, but will now be for the final version. Map 6.1 will have VR2 proposed options 1, 2, 3 removed, and 6.2 an enlargement of VR2, that should be an enlargement of VR2, will be entirely removed. Chris Williams of the planning request placed to... Okay, there I just specified, there's this current use value appraisal has lots of names, and so I use them all whenever I reference it, because it goes by different names. Mitch Race proposed to remove the current map 6.2 and replace it with a current use map. Tony Krulikowski seconds. 301, Tim Scoggins abstains. Motion passes. That just needed correcting. Bob Moffett asked where number 4, the text about locating communication towers, went, and explained that this was in conflict with another policy in the town plan. A little bit of wording change there. Just slight wording change there. And if everyone is okay, I move we accept the minutes as I have amended them.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved for August 25th. Announcements. Does anyone have any announcements before Dave tells us about household hazardous waste?
Yeah, I have an announcement. The Shaftsbury Historical Society is having a Shires Historical Society gathering on September 27th from 2 to 4 p.m. up at the Galusha Homestead. It's just going to be a gathering, a little social, to introduce everyone to each other. We all have the same common interest, and as far as I know, it's never been done, so we're trying to put something together. We might get a few people. So if you're interested, come on down.
What's it again? September what?
Pardon?
What was it again?
September 27th, 2 to 4. It'll be finger food, light refreshments.
And it's who? Shires?
The Shaftsbury Historical Society is putting on a Shires Historical Society gathering. That's what we're calling it. It's more of a social. So it's
So just to
meet
draw
and
in...
greet the fellow Shires Historical Societies, Manchester,
Okay.
and the surrounding communities. We even gone over to Paulette and Rupert.
Okay.
We're trying to expand the do more coordination, I think.
Okay, good. David?
Okay, Household Hazardous Waste Day will be on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1, October 4th, at the Shaftsbury Transfer Station. We are putting that on WBTN in the banner. It's already on the town's website. It'll be posted around town and in the Penny Saver. There'll be posters similar to this, but hopefully a little bit more colorful, going out and being posted around. They're pretty much the same format last year. The same objects will be taken as last year also. And again, Saturday, October 4th, from 9 to 1 p.m. And I have one other announcement, if I may.
Yes.
We had a meeting with the Recreation Committee, and we are put on the website, and we're actively seeking volunteers for the Recreation Committee. In discussion with the two current members, we need more people to be involved. We need more input into programs and access. There are a number of items I've discussed with the Recreation Committee, repairs to buildings. We have a tractor that's coming up for replacement. We could use some more people from the community to come in and join us. We are now going to have regularly scheduled meetings the fourth Monday of every month at 6:30 p.m. As needed. We do expect to have them every fourth Monday. And we do need input from the community. We need some participation from the community so that we can address some of these issues in the parks and straighten out. A lot of groups are using it, a lot of community groups, and it's difficult. We don't even have a quorum for the committee. There's only 2 people. So we need some more people there.
So fourth Monday of the month at 6?
The fourth Monday of the month at 6:30.
6:30.
And hopefully we'll get some more volunteers in that, and we'll be able to, we have an opportunity now to start looking for next year. Obviously, the season's wrapping up for Howard Park. We can start making some plans for next year and operations and the rules for Howard Park. And any community group that wants to be involved should come on down.
Good.
It'll be next Monday, actually, 6:30.
All right, no other announcements? Warrants.
Are we going to do these minutes? Or is that, no.
Is that on the agenda? Do we have you sent those around, right?
Yeah, the
I'm sorry,
10th,
what?
did the 10th minutes, were we going to do the 10th minutes?
From the special meeting, yeah.
Special meeting.
Yeah, everybody got those?
Yeah.
For some reason, they're not in my folder here, but I had no corrections to those.
Yep.
I move we accept the minutes for the special meeting on Wednesday, September 10th.
Second.
Mitch seconds. Any addition or corrections to those minutes?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you.
Tim, you want to do number 5?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Before we get to warrants, public comments. Does any members of the public have any comments they would like to make about anything appearing on the agenda tonight? No? Then we will move on to warrants. First, I move we accept retirement warrant PR 6R in the amount of $56.46.
Second.
Second by Mitch. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I move we accept payroll warrant number 6. Is the total in the amount of $17,900.94.
Second.
Second by Mitch. Any discussion of the payroll warrant? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I move we accept check warrant number 6 in the amount of $119,504.25. Second?
Second.
By Mitch. Major items on this are Blue Cross Blue Shield, $6,016. Sheriff, $1,606. Daily, $24.42. Mar Excavating, $1,050.
That's a drum roller. Sorry, that was used on White Creek and where else? Mahar Excavating?
Mahar? Okay. PC Connection, $1,579.
That's Judy's computer.
Judy's new computer. Santander Leasing, $90,886.
That's the 2013 tandem and the rescue pumper. There's 2 vehicles on that.
Okay. TAM, $61.79. It's August services, it says. That's our normal trash bill for the running the transfer station.
And the management fee.
Mm-hmm. Wills Insurance, $23.84. And that's it.
Yeah, the only other one on there was stamp fulfillment, which is ordering the replacement envelopes for the tax bills this year.
Okay,
Other
I
than
overlooked
the
that.
emergency shipment I got.
Mm-hmm. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unless I missed something. We're up to number 7. Our treasurer, Bill Fisk, is here to discuss a penalty for late filing of homestead declaration.
Good evening. As you may know, many of our residents are qualified for subsidization by the state of their property tax bills. This subsidy comes from the filing of a declaration of homestead. And this is done each year now. Last year I came before you and advised you that the law had changed and that the declaration was required annually. We discussed the penalty last year, and the board decided not to assess the penalty because of the transition, and many towns took that approach. This year, many towns are taking the approach that they are going to assess a penalty for late filing declarations. What happens when a declaration is filed late? It's due on October 15th, regardless of whether or not you file a Vermont tax return on that date. But what happens is that if you subsequently file a declaration, it requires a rebilling of property taxes. It requires work on the part of the listers and a part of the treasurer to change the tax bill and to effectively rebill once the bills go out. In addition to that, the amount of the payment that would otherwise be made is reduced by $15. The penalty provided in the statute is up to 3% under certain circumstances and up to 8% on other circumstances. There is also a statutory authority for a penalty of up to 100% in case of fraud. The percentages are on the education tax. In Shaftsbury, our resident rate, our homestead rate, education rate, is lower than our non-residential rate. And as a consequence of that, the law says that the penalty can be up to 3% of the education tax. The purpose of the penalty is to encourage taxpayers to file the declaration, not only to make the billing process more efficient, but also to make the determination of the actual tax rates for the coming year correct. The homestead declaration ensures that the homestead tax rate is accurately calculated, and when that's not correct, there are problems. So in our town, basically what we're looking at is up to 3% penalty. I've recommended the 3% penalty to get the attention of some individuals who are habitual non-filers or late filers. And I have a list right now that constitutes 35 known late filers and an additional 56 who filed last year but have not yet filed with the state. The last filing with the state will cut off on October 15th, and we won't get that information until close to November 1st, and then we'll have to rebill. The statute is clear that that does not extend the time for filing your taxes, so if you get a revised tax bill based on a late filing, it's still due. And if you miss it, you're still subject to the penalties and interest charges. So for that...
That date line right there is pretty tight for you. If you get information that they filed with the state on the 1st of November and you're sending out tax bills on the 10th, they're lucky if they get the tax bill before it's due.
That's absolutely, the revised tax bill, that's absolutely correct. They will be billed. And what happened last year with some individuals is when they received their tax bill and discovered that they did not receive a homestead payment, they immediately got concerned about that. And so that's when they learned that the law had changed. Although we attempted to publicize that at the select board, the state tax department publicized that in newspaper articles and in radio media. I know I've heard it on that. So I'm basically asking you to approve the assessment of the penalty, and I'm recommending the full 3%. There is a provision in unusual circumstances if someone has, and the statutory factors relate to an active duty military person who's out of the state at the time, someone who has a serious illness or injury, someone who has a serious illness, injury, or death in the family can be excused. But generally speaking, the penalty would apply to any late filers. So that's my request to you this evening. I attempt to answer your questions and await your decision.
Mm-hmm.
So just to be sure, these people that don't file, they don't get their homestead rate, so they're paying a higher rate to begin with.
Right, but they're
And-
messing up the system by doing
Yeah, I
it.
understand.
That's the problem.
Right.
If their non-residential rate was lower than their homestead rate, as it is in District 1, the penalty would be 8%. You know, you can't,
But-
if you have a homestead, you have to file a declaration.
Well,
That's
this
the law.
is a state that is a little bit at fault for some of this stuff. They had to have filed every year, then they took it away for 2 years, and then they turn it back on, you gotta file it. It's confusing to say the least.
That's
and-
correct, and that's why we waived the penalty last year, Mitch. For that, or you waived the penalty, I didn't, last year.
Mm-hmm. Any other question for Bill? Do I hear a motion to approve a 3% penalty for late filing of homestead exemption?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstain? There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Sharon,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Okay, let's see, we are up to road foreman update. Terry, welcome.
Evening.
Also known as the White Creek update.
Yeah, Dave, I think knows more about it than I do,
The
what the
White Creek
state told
update.
him.
And I didn't get to see you this afternoon. We have an appointment at 1 o'clock at Brownells with Chris Taft
Tomorrow?
on Thursday.
Oh.
So that we can just go over the final details and anything else you might need, safety equipment, anything,
Okay.
another sheriff or anything. And Jaron will be back to me by the end of the week just to clarify the permitting process, that we don't need it by letter. And then as soon as we can schedule it and get the material, we'll do the fix. We're going to meet with Chris, just go over the last thing, make sure the length and things like that. So we'll be.
So we don't have to wait till October 1st or something now for a
Well,
permit?
no, Jaron still has to get back to me, but I want to talk to Chris one last time, because he's basically designed this thing, or with the geotech guy. And as soon as Jaron gives the okay, then we're free to do it when you can work it into your schedule.
See, I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
Chris who?
Sorry.
Chris who, the
Sounds like
engineer?
the
Chris Taft is the District 1 engineer. He'll be the one who helped design it. Actually, it was designed by the geotech guy by the state. But Chris we'll just go over the exact location of it again, and then we'll move on that way with it.
That's 1 PM on Thursday?
1 PM on Thursday, I told him that you and I would be there, and Chris, and if Jaron comes down, that'll be fine too.
What's the plan at this point, Dave?
The plan is the same as before, what the geotech engineer designed. It would be the roll buried down in fabric that would allow the water to pass through, but would retain the material, it would stabilize the material on the bank.
Yeah, Ken might have been here for when you explained it before. I put some
Oh, okay.
blocks beside the river.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that.
One is 2 foot below well, they want us to dig on the east side, so it'd be the back side of the blocks, approximately 4 feet deeper than that, 20 feet long,
Yeah.
put fabric in there, fill it full of stone, and then
What,
cover
just
that,
Inch and a half or something?
no, 4 to 6
Yeah,
inch stone, wrap the fabric around it, then recover it all up. Supposed to be like a barricade to stop the clay, but let the water through.
right. Where's the outlet for the water gonna be? Downstream?
No, there's no outlet.
Yeah, apparently from what they were saying was that because the area there.
Telling you what they told me.
Through.
Yeah, I know, but.
I asked
Well,
Dave if we
that's
could
another
daylight
part-
it
Yeah, that's
down,
another
but
part to go through is the end, because I know what Terry's saying, what they're saying is that there's enough gravel there that the water would leach through
Well,
properly.
you've gotta have more weight of
Oh, yeah,
stone material than the clay material to hold it.
yeah.
That's why you see these banks where they do that and they puff
Yeah,
right out.
but we're underground though. We'll be under all the,
Right, but you still
the
got
clay
that place for
shouldn't
that
push-
water to go, or you ain't gaining.
well, I
nothing
guess
by
what they're
running
thinking is the water will come up through the stone
Yeah.
and go into the riverbed. I guess what they're thinking, because I thought we should dig a trench all the way down and daylight it at the other end of the
Yeah,
tunnel,
Yeah, that would be my thinking too.
but they told me no, so. I was gonna put an under drain in it, but
Yeah, well, I think you should. Well, maybe when they ain't looking.
if I'd known it was gonna come to this, I'd have put the pipe back in the river before now.
Maybe just a little bit of background for people in the audience and at home that may not have lived and breathed the White Creek
The whole thing.
situation like the rest of us.
Yeah, there's a very clay-type material that's coming out from under the road, appearing in the river. It's causing the road, a depression in the road. We have gone to District 1 from AOT. Their engineers have looked at it and referred. Terry had a sample done. That was sent to AOT, who sent it to their geotechnical engineer and the river management engineer. They drew up this plan. That's the geotechnical engineer and the engineer's best projection of what to do, of how to correct this issue. And with all the things we've heard, whether it was Renaud Brothers or anyone else, there's really no guarantee. This is what the best geotech engineer in the state thinks. It works for rivers management and with the District 1 AOT. So it gives us substantial, in my opinion, substantial amount of heads thinking on this, that it's something that we can move forward on. It's also, frankly, pretty cost-effective compared to some of the other things I've heard, like putting in pylons and sheeting, which just really creates a dam anyway. It prevents us from having to also dig out White Creek to what depth and direction we don't know, and cause a big disruption to the road. This could probably be done, I believe we thought, in a day, and it might require hiring a sheriff just because it's on that bend, just for safety. I want all the guys to be safe, and we'll have to monitor it and see where it goes. I don't think this is their best opinion of how to fix it, and, it's been around from everyone I've talked to, yourself included. This problem
It's the 60s.
has been there for a long time, so this is just one method to try and stop this sudden destabilization that's happened in the last few months, as far as I can tell.
My dad fixed it for 30 years.
Yeah. And this may just be because during Irene, that large culvert popped out, It might have just taken it to the intervening 3 to 4 years for this problem to creep up with the heavy rains we've had recently.
Now, let me get it straight, Dave. What they're saying is they just dig between the blocks in the road, not in the road again.
No, not in the road again, no.
Only 2 feet wide.
It's only 2 feet,
2 feet wide.
yeah.
2 feet wide, big as the bucket, 4 feet lower, 20 feet long, fill it full of stone, come up to the top of the ground level and put the stone over the top of it.
Cheap, anyway.
It is cheap, and from their background, they feel this will solve the problem.
What's the disadvantage of having a detour for that one day?
Although there is none. One of the
has to
things
be
I wanted to
published,
check with
right?
Terry is, this is something I want to look at, is the safety issue. Should we close the lane? Should we close the road? Or because of where you're going to have your equipment, can we leave it open and have a sheriff there? Like I said, when we do the shoulder stone, which I think we're going to do next week, we've hired 2 sheriffs to be with them for safety
Yeah,
reasons, so.
it's crazy on that road.
Yeah, so, we'll decide that. For one day, I don't think it would be that big a deal to detour it. If we have to do it for safety, it's not optional, I don't think, so.
Just has to be published, right?
Yeah, we'll have to do that, and we'll have time. Put Terry to work it into his schedule, so we can see when we can do it. And that should hopefully take care of Brent Elves until the next thing comes
Yeah.
up with it. The other part, I guess, is the paving, which is, we were holding off for, if you remember, we were talking about the painting of the lines, the state paints the lines. The fog lines, yeah. Well, I talked to the company, and the problem is they don't send any trucks to Vermont with white paint. They all come with yellow paint. So,
I've got a phone number today of another garage up north that does white lines.
okay, we could look into that because we can charge that to the grant, but the company that the state hires is only doing yellow lines. So if they would have to mobilize an entire separate truck with that fee and everything else to come over. Yeah, so I was like, well, I don't think we want to pay that much money for, yeah, I know, it was, I had the same reaction. It was like,
Sounds
there's no place you can put any
Sounds
white
like a
paint on that
government
truck,
job.
huh?
Somebody,
So, the other option is, because once we do paint the white lines, which have never been on White Creek before, they have to be maintained.
yeah.
Now, if you drive down White Creek, a lot of the road really, there's level sides. In the areas where there aren't, you can get metal posts with wide reflectors that could basically drive you around the corners, the bends. The maintenance would be much lower. Some would be hit by cars, some would be taken, but it is something you can do. There's areas I know in Sunderland where, when you come down Sunderland Hill Road, right around the bend going down the hill, it's all marked out with arrows on one side and white reflectors on the other. At night, it's highly visible and you can see. It's an option. It would probably be cheaper, and would most definitely be cheaper in the long run than the fog lines, which again, have never been there.
Yeah, because it's a real drop-off.
There's a real drop
The
off.
ditches are so
Thing is,
deep
the lines
now
have never
that,
been there before, but now there's a significant drop-off
On both
from the
sides.
new high
there's
pavement.
gotta be a way. When we got, Airport Road done, I made several phone calls, couldn't get anywhere. I stopped at Paulins one day for lunch, went in, and there was a truck out there with paint on it, and I said to the guy, I said, what would it take to get you to go up and do that road right there for a mile? I'll go do it for you. Thank you very much. And that's all it took.
He must have been one of those white paint trucks.
No, it was yellow line, state truck. He went up, painted it right there like nothing for me.
If they're around, yeah, and they will be here in a couple of weeks, but then because the state pays them to do the yellow lines, and we can look for more white paint.
Just curiously, when they do the roads in Bennington,
In North Bennington, they use white paint.
well, they've got their own little machine they walk behind. That would be a little tough on that road to do that.
Yeah, that would be,
They get both of them done the same day, and I can try to get a hold of, drawing a blank here, Bennington, road foreman, see how he does it.
well, yeah, I mean, we can start looking into another contractor. I looked solely into the state contractor because he was gonna be here. And when I finally got him to call back and.
Well, they actually called me and asked me what roads we needed done, and I told them Airport Road, White Creek Road about a month ago, and she says, well, we're in Rutland now, we'll be down your area very
Yeah,
shortly.
they're in Arlington.
You aren't thinking of doing both the white line and the reflector posts, are you?
No, it can be one or the other. I really think it can be one or the other, and as, there's long stretches of White Creek where there aren't drop-offs.
Right.
So, it could stay the way it is, and just where those sharp drop-offs are, you could either have the reflectors, which would serve the same purpose as the white line, and even be more visible in inclement weather. Or you start thinking about guardrails, which is a
Well,
whole nother.
The state didn't recommend guardrails there on that corner
Yeah,
because they're worried it'd bounce traffic into the other oncoming
Just
lane.
dump off.
That's why they had me bank it up.
The
but you could,
reflectors on posts would be how close to the road?
They're about a foot and a half off the side of the road so the plow still can overhang.
yeah, they have to be set back far enough so that you can,
Yeah. When I drive over there, I think we need white stripes on that part where it's,
Real dark.
Top is, a foot above the ditch.
Well, as of next week, you'll have about a foot of shoulder beyond that. After we put the shoulder down,
Have a lot more dirt.
we'll just take a truck right down, it'll come right out the sander chute, it'll lay right down, then we take a plow and we'll just level it right out, so you'll have a good foot of crushed gravel on the side of the blacktop. I mean, it's still a big ditch there, but at least you'll have a little bit more road there.
That's something we're still planning to do? is
We're doing it.
Adding shoulder?
That's what Dave, we finally decided to just get sheriffs, because we have to drive against traffic to do this. And I don't like the idea of our guys standing in the middle of the road with a plastic stop sign, somebody come flying around the corner there, and
yeah, we've hired 2 sheriffs to work with them for the day or 2 days, if it takes 2 days. It's really the only way to do it safely.
Yeah.
But that's a significant expense, isn't it, adding enough gravel to build shoulders?
you gotta do it or you lose the blacktop.
Yeah.
We always do.
Yeah, it's part of it.
That's part of the road.
Gotta flake right out.
Yeah, I'd feel better if there were a shoulder there. The way it is now, it's, you're either on the blacktop
Yep.
or you're in the ditch.
Oh, if your tire gets caught on that blacktop, you're over.
You gotta remember, that's a foot wider than it used to be.
I know.
It is, it's a foot wider. We tried to help.
Well, what we can do is we can look into, try and find someone who's willing to take on for line painter, a pretty small job of doing that, because he'd have to come down here with a truck to do white lines, 2 white lines for 2.4 miles, total of 4.8 miles. So, it wasn't worth it to the guys doing the state bid, because they have a huge contract. We can look into prices for that, and the prices, like I said, for the post and the reflectors are pretty cheap.
Yeah, let's see if we can find another, somebody else to
Yeah.
paint those lines that has white paint in the same state as their truck.
Well, what they do is they load the truck and they paint until it's empty, and then the whole crew heads back to Massachusetts, and then they fill the truck with yellow paint, but they won't bring any white. Yeah. Those things.
Okay.
Good job.
All right, anything else we need to know about, Terry?
We finished up Cider Mill Hill today with topsoil and seeding and cleaned it all up, dressed it up. Besides for a little ditching at some point that's not mandatory, I don't think. It looks pretty good, I think, up there.
Mm-hmm.
The
Good.
dozer's off the hill. We waiting on Dave to tell me where I can put it next. I guess he's got some conversation to do.
Right at the landfill.
Well, that's what I'd like to do, but we got to get permission to.
No, I just said park it.
Oh, park
I didn't
it,
say do
okay.
anything with it, just park
Did you
it.
ever get your picnic table up there?
Not yet. It's nice up there, though.
Well, one thing we should probably, because Terry's and I have been having a discussion, Terry's mentioned wanting to expand this salt shed here by 2 posts out.
Well, even I'm gonna go for the golden. Let's do 4 at 16 feet instead of 2 at 10. I've got telephone poles and I've got the hardwood wood. What I'm concerned with again this winter, I've talked to Daly's and I talked to Dave down at Mannequins. Neither one of them can give us any space. If we got our salt now that whatever we can get now in stockpile, we can get it right now. Come January, it might be the same deal as last year. And we only can hold 60 ton in this shed, and that's 2 storms and we're empty. We were waiting up to 3 weeks last year to get a load of salt. I've got a friend down there, Warren Fain, that does the trucking, and he helped me out last year twice and pulled our ticket before it was supposed to be and delivered salt, but I don't know how often that will happen. Until we get something bigger to store our salt in, if we follow that same roof line with just aluminum roofing, we could fit 3 or 4 more whole truckloads into that shed because it's so small on this east end. if you followed that roof line up, we could pile it high in there, and we could get a couple 100 tons of salt in there ahead of time. So if we had to wait 3 weeks, we wouldn't be worried about running out at the very end of our salt again, like we were last year. See, Bennington has a big salt shed, and they buy it all up front. They get it all put in there, and they're good for the winter. But I don't know how many people go with the Farmer's Almanac. They're saying first storm is Thanksgiving this year, a big one. Yeah. If I used any less, would you be using house salt?
Do you need a motion or just to go ahead to go 16 feet?
Do you have a price estimate on doing
I
that?
have the poles, I have the hardwood, all we have to buy is the aluminum sheeting for the roof. That's it.
So, sounds like low hundreds maybe.
Yeah, it's a simple, monetarily, it's nothing. Really, because we have the crew that can put it up too.
Okay.
The question just, when Terry and I was discussing, I was saying, this is something for the select board to approve, increasing the size of that.
I mean, it's not a great place to have it, it never has been, but it's going to be temporary, hopefully, no matter what happens, we know that. It's just to try to get us a little bit more storage to buy us more time in the winter months, that's all.
If you go up higher, is it gonna push out on the sides?
Telephone poles are pretty rugged, though. Yeah.
You want to cable it up towards the top or something.
Yeah, we can.
You don't get much push on the side anyway, because you're pushing
No,
in.
right,
Just tie them together. Tie them up and they should be good.
yep. I can actually drill the poles at the top, and put double bolts through two 2x8s or whatever, and tie them together so there's no way they can fall out on the top.
Can we do this without going to the zoning administrator and asking permission to do it?
We will have to get a building permit for our building, which will get rapidly approved, so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
You know
we.
the zoning administrator well, don't you?
In fact, I could write it before I leave tonight, too.
Okay.
Just do that. Yeah, just keep it under 30 feet. Otherwise, it's there. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Now that I think of it. We might have to get a variance to do that.
Yeah, I think if we need,
Because it's a pre-existing non-conforming building. Because it's too close to the property line. So to extend it, you would have to get a variance, and it would have to go to the DRB. Now that I think of it, that's the big hangup with it.
yeah, I think we should do that. I don't think we should ask
Well,
people
we
to
can,
do
yeah.
things that we don't ask
Yeah,
ourselves
we
to do.
can't, we
so.
can't. But I hadn't thought about that complication of doing that.
So they'll have a 15-foot or 25-foot setback from the property.
No, it's on the property line essentially. And knowing the rules of DRB, and this is essentially a condition that we created by having it on the property line. So it's not the hardship we created ourselves. So I would think it would even be denied. And they have to go by their set of rules, just like everybody else in town has to follow them. We would too. So that would be a significant drawback to that. Yeah.
Well, we can ask.
Yeah, we'll put in the permit and we'll see, and actually, we have a DRB meeting.
Well, it'd be almost
Wednesday
impossible to
night.
put it anywhere else.
Oh, I agree, unless, then this opens up another whole can of worms. We live with this for this winter again until some other plan comes up where we can have either one of those temporary ones or, and again, that's a large board decision on facilities like this. But you are short, we made it last winter. I guess we'll have to, unless you can get something over at Daley's like we were talking about.
I talked to him, there's nothing.
There's nothing?
Mannequin's nothing.
Yeah, it's hard to put salt.
He's got 2,000 ton of salt, and he has nowhere to put it even.
Yeah,
He's scraping now to figure out a place to put his salt.
well, we'll have to do with how we did last year. Because it wouldn't go through. I mean, we'll apply, and we can even have the hearing at the DRB. But they would have to grant a variance for us to do it. We're not exempt from our own rules, unless it was some emergency, and it's not.
Or it'd go to the next meeting because you'd have to get your neighbors.
Oh, no, yeah, we'd be doing this in October at this point. probably the first DRB in October if we got it done as quick as possible.
Well, there are emergency overtones to this, although it's not an emergency situation. If we run out of salt and can't buy any because we don't have anywhere to put it, we could have an emergency on the road, so.
Yeah,
Maybe
there are issues to be discussed, but I think we should follow the proper procedure. So we'll just launch it, I'll write up the permit application tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll just get it done.
Okay, good.
One more question. Well, Dave and I have talked about it, and I guess you guys have to discuss it anyways at some point. The dozer is done up on cider mill. I'd like to bring it down to the landfill, but we're not really sure what we need for a permit or permission to actually, if we had time, to start stumping an area up at the landfill to just make it usable land for whatever, maybe even a temporary salt shed if we had to have it.
Yeah, when Terry
It
and
just
I,
would be done at least.
he was talking to me about this, but I think, again, it's something I said really needs to come to the board, because to be working there is kind of an indication that we intend to be using the property for something to do with the highway department. And I think that's a decision that has to be made. Again, it's a facilities and management decision that the board has to decide, because this was just before the town. And if we start clearing the land and putting electric in, we're pretty much saying that we're going to start using it for highway use. And-
Well, I wouldn't say anything about electric yet. I'd say clear it, and if we run into issues with our neighboring land, then we'd have to ask for permission for a power pole and a temporary shed of some sort to store our,
Yeah, I understand where Terry's coming from. We can clear the land, I mean, sure, we can do whatever we want. We can clear the land, we can put up a salt shed, we can run wires to it, but that's also kind of starting to build a highway garage in a location where it just didn't pass.
I don't think stumping it I think we could say that we're stumping it so that we can keep it clear easier. Otherwise, you can't bush hog it or anything. You're
No.
rolling around stumps and it's gonna grow right back up.
Oh, it's a mess. Terry took me back, because I wasn't even clear where it was. Terry took me back. It's a mess. There's no doubt that stumping it would, for whatever purpose it goes to eventually, would make it a lot easier for brush hogging it and everything.
he just said it right there. In my mind, it's just a head start for any reason you want to use it, for anything. Whatever it may be, you can't do anything with it right now. You can't even drive across that.
Can't even store stuff up there.
Right,
Can't do
but I mean, if for some reason something else came and you wanted to put it down there just to store it, you can't right now. But it's good land just not being used right now.
It's all gonna turn to brush, you don't do something with it.
Right.
If we don't mow it.
And we can't even, like you said, we can't even mow it right now.
Yeah, you can't get anything in there.
Well, I'm in favor of putting the garage out there and getting a head start on it, but I think that there are political dangers in looking like we're getting ready to build a garage before we brought that subject up to the town, a town that's twice rejected putting a garage there. I'm afraid that if we start stumping up there, people are going to say, you're planning to build a garage and you haven't gotten approval to do that yet.
I disagree.
Me too. We own the land, and it's, right now, unusable land.
Well, how many days will it take you to stump that?
Well, I wouldn't even give you a number, Mitch. I wouldn't even dare to. All I'm thinking is if it was a drizzly day or something and one of the guys wanted to go up and sit in the dozer for the day because you don't get wet in there, they could pull some stumps out and start putting them in a pile just to start to clear it off. So next year when it did grow, we go up to mow the landfill, we could go right down there with a mower and mow it and just keep it mowed down. But right now you can't even drive through it. It's just absolutely non-usable, and it's too bad all the work we did to have all that grow back up and trees start growing back up. And like I'm not asking for the garage up there or anything right now. I just hate to see that land just sit there not being used or being able to be used when you've already got it.
Well, I'm thinking move it to an extra storage shed for sand, for salt. I mean, that would justify going in there. If we're running out of room here, we have land there to put that in and build a
Oh, absolutely, and you can get everything from It's basically a flex building
Right.
that would need just a small power source.
Right.
And you could store all this, the whole thing can be done for, I don't know, with the right fabric on the roof, $50,000, $60,000, if that much. It would be commodious. You could get all the salt you wanted in it. You could mix the sand in it. You could do a whole bunch of things.
Right.
But again, you know, that's a structure, and that's a 20-year structure. These things will last a long time, and then that's, you couldn't call it temporary. It would be a structure,
You
yeah.
know, we're gonna wind up, if the winter continues to be as miserable as it has been, we're gonna wind up every year with the same issue with salt and, you know, and the roads are number one for the town. I mean, they're front and center.
I mean, I think you guys don't look at it as a road crew necessity. I guess I ask you to look at it as we've gotten by in the past, like Dave said, with what we've got, we'll make do. But like Ken just said, it's non-usable land up there right now. Why not at least prepare ourselves in case this land here does fall out from under us? We have a second alternative that is not, okay, now you gotta go strip it and get it ready in a hurry.
I think it's being proactive if we start.
That's all I'm saying. Let's be proactive.
Yeah.
Say 2 years down the road, you get sick of this and you leave, Tim, somebody else comes in, they decide to buy this land and put the building over there then. But at least that was ready for when you're in here in case of an emergency or something to fall back on.
And on the positive aspects, we did have the trees cleared. You know, this is just kind of finishing that basic task of clearing the trees. I mean, it can be viewed that way too, that we're just removing the stumps to keep from what Art mentioned of it just growing back into a miserable thicket that'll cost twice as much to remove.
I am persuaded by the idea that if something happened to this property next door here, we would have nowhere to put.
Well, I notice now there's a sign out on the road for sale.
Yeah, that's been out for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and Terry and I have been talking about it. What are we gonna do if that sells? And suddenly we
Our
have to go
boundaries are
somewhere.
very close.
Like, where are we gonna go?
Yeah.
Which brings me, I was gonna bring up the shed we wanted to build on the end here to move all this stuff out of the garage, all the
Right.
chemicals and everything. Well, I'll cobble that into this because we're gonna have to get a variance for that because it's gonna be too close to the property line.
No. It's already existing roof there.
I thought we were gonna build an addition on it.
No.
No? Okay, then skip that. Then we can do that. But it is a possibility and it would be open. It does give a bit of backup, but it does have what Tim's saying too, that we're preparing the land. If we get to the point we need a salt shed, then it will be a permanent structure. It's not gonna be, you can get these things, I can show you these. You can even put container bases on them so you can store things in them, and boy, they have a lot of volume.
Yeah, shipping containers. They
Yeah.
put them on the bottoms. You
You
store
do
stuff
two-
in them and then
Back-to-back 80s with the top over it.
Yep.
And then you can have an enormous amount of salt and sand inside it. And they're very, in the scope of things, they're very cheap.
and for saving grace, a couple days you could take it down if you had to move it, and you take it and you move it somewhere else anyway.
Separate.
So it's not a permanent building
Yeah,
per se.
it's a substantial construction, but it can be dismantled. It's one of the beauties of it. You can dismantle the thing.
You need a motion, or what do you need?
Well, it's just something for you guys to think about. I wasn't
Yeah,
trying
I
to
think
make
we need a
you,
motion.
I'm kind of concerned about Tim. If we start doing stuff out there, people are going to say we're going ahead of doing it without their permission. If we do it now, or if we aren't going to put a salt shed out there, which would be the whole purpose of clearing that land, stumping it right now, I think the town people will say, what are you doing?
you got several weeks of work out there burning the stumps and, I mean, it's not
Yeah.
if we needed it in a hurry, it can't be done in a hurry. It won't be done in a hurry.
But even if the land is cleared
It's just,
and then this property sold, we had no place to put salt. Can we put salt out there? I guess we just do what we did here, dump it on the ground and put a tarp over it?
no, that's
Oh, this is
sand.
sand out
That's
here.
sand there.
Mm-hmm,
Salt's in the shed right here.
right, okay.
I don't think you're allowed to dump salt.
No, you're not.
No,
So we would need,
It would be another construction project.
it would be a construction project.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that land sells, we don't gain much in a couple of weeks of clearing, we've still got a construction project before we can do anything with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but at least you've got some of the stumps out of there, Ted.
Exactly.
You can't just let that, because you'd be surprised in a year or two, there'd be stuff in there, I mean, you can't move up there now.
The other good thing about the stumps being out of there now is the rainwater will settle the ground and firm it up good for a base. We get it nice level where the water will run off it, that will compact that ground in good shape. If you just stump it now and then try to level it out and then try to put some kind of building or something in there, it's gonna settle all different ways, and that's one advantage of getting it cleared early.
But what I'm saying, if that land goes away, we've got to find somewhere to put our salt. We're
You only have
budget
one
season
option.
and a construction season away from having
Yeah.
anything there.
You only have one option right now, though, that's it.
Yeah.
We have no other options right now.
But we can't, we lost that place tomorrow, we just flat don't have any place to put salt. We couldn't go dump salt on the ground out there on that
No.
land.
Not only
No.
that, we have to move all that sand. And we have to park all the trucks, so what.
How long would it
Dick,
take,
you're thinking
Dave?
of too,
How long does it take to do approval through the state like that? I mean,
to work back there?
no, to put salt up there.
That's a good question. I'm not familiar with, it's a lot of wetlands there, right?
Salt,
No?
salt's on our property.
The salt's on our property here, yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
forget about salt.
Right.
Salt can stay there.
Yeah, salt can stay there.
Yeah, well, as we're talking about, if
Salt's on our property.
this moves,
It's the same.
we have to
as
move the
sand.
sand,
Right,
which,
you're right.
worst comes to worst, we might just have to pile it up over there
I was
until
gonna
we
say,
get,
right in the-
until we find someplace else to put it. The trucks, maybe we can.
We
put
can
some
keep the
down.
sand on our property, you just gotta get rid of all the vehicles.
Yeah, yeah,
They go somewhere every winter, they've got to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
we
why we're using mannequins now and
So you
wherever.
think we could dump the sand on that property out there if it were cleared?
The sand's on our property.
Oh, it's
Salt's
not
on.
on the cross property?
Well,
That's what he's telling us is this,
Trucks are, the vehicles are.
it's all the
equipment.
vehicles that we
Okay.
park around it.
the sand's not quite all on our property, but
yeah, there's a big chunk of it that's not on our
Yeah.
property, but we could move the sand, because the
we can
sand
move the
is,
sand.
is not, when you move salt, you have runoff issues. You move sand, you just put in a pile somewhere. We could find some place to put our pile of sand for the winter. But,
So what are we needing to jump, a 2-week or 3-week jump on in terms of stumping? What are we protecting against by risking public ire by doing stumping out there on that land at this point? What is the need?
We're completing the job of clear cutting it.
It's really land
You've
management.
only done half a job.
It's really land management.
that is the best reasoning for doing it, is it's
Yeah.
finishing a project that was started.
Yeah.
Because I think Legacy took the trees down, is that what happened? And then the stumping, I can see what you're saying, because the stumping would be the natural progression to what's already been approved, but, and I don't know why it stopped, or why,
Well, I think we were afraid that people were gonna assume, but,
Oh, we cleared it in anticipation of putting a garage there, right? Was there some other reason that we cut the trees down?
But I mean, like, well, okay.
Jay, did you have a question?
Just, my personal opinion is that you've got a valuable piece of property, and all you do is maintain it,
yeah, yeah,
regardless of what's going to be used.
that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it would be foolish to wait, and then you're gonna pay more to have to clear all the other stuff that has grown up there. God knows when we decide what we're gonna do with it, but in case of, I just anticipate emergencies. Things are not gonna get any better as far as supplies of resources. And I don't know how long that's gonna last.
I mean, right now, you can't even store equipment up there,
Right.
if you had to.
No,
It's just, to me, it makes sense to clear it.
if you're looking for a motion, I make a motion that we continue with
Yeah.
the project, we're clear cutting it by stumping it.
Yeah.
We're not going any further.
We have a motion to continue the process of
Clear cutting.
clear cutting the land at the transfer station by stumping it. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
You check into that and see if we,
Yep, I'll find
Need
out.
anything?
You shouldn't need much for doing the stumping, but, the shed is gonna go up, or are we gonna enclose that?
that goes under the roof
Yeah.
that's already there.
Yeah, you're gonna have the material for that and everything?
I've got a
Okay.
price that Margie already had earlier. I can give it to you
Okay.
for Mark A. Miles for what it was to
Yeah.
do it.
Okay. And that's, the only other thing I have is we talked about another insurance study. I talked to Wills, or I'm talking to Wills to see what they would offer. It was done by Trident back in 2010 of the garage, the insurance study of the garage, and I think it's time to have another one. So we talked to Wills to see what they recommend. They were responsible for the Trident one the last time. Maybe expand the parameters a little bit, but to see what they have to say.
As far as just so you know, the capital improvements, we did 2/3 of the, I guess you'd call southern side of Murphy Hill with fabric last week. We just gotta finish the top of the hill. And then the other side, we're hoping to start this week by starting to tear it out to get the fabric on that, and we'll be pretty well caught up for, capital improvements, except for our tree work we're gonna do on Holy Smoke Road, and when it gets a little cooler, we'll do that.
Are you waiting for somebody to take the trees down?
No?
You're gonna do that yourself?
Yeah, just with the chaps and the helmets on and everything, it's,
Okay.
this little bit, this cooler weather now is a lot better to do the tree work.
At one time, you were talking about hiring,
Oh, Greater Heights has to help us with the real tall ones.
yes, okay.
They'll
So
take the
there's-
tops out for us, and then we take the rest of it down.
Okay,
There's one other thing, we have, one estimate, we've talked to one electrician to upgrade the lighting inside the garage. It's very tough for them to work in there in the upcoming months. It's tough to see things, and people are working with heavy equipment and then heavy tools, and it's a kind of a safety issue. The first one came in a little high, so we'll see what we can do. We're hoping to keep it under 3,000 so we can get it done.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you, Terry. All right, I believe we're up to number 9 on the agenda tonight, appointment of a new zoning administrator.
Shelley, come on up and have a seat. This is
Shelley,
Shelley
welcome.
Stiles.
Hi,
Shelley Stiles, welcome.
thank you.
Well, you know how that goes. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be our zoning administrator.
A lot of folks at the table know me from the Bennington County Conservation District, where I've worked for a long, long time, more than 2 decades. But for that entire period, it was a primary job, but only a part-time job. And I held other part-time jobs during the same time. And for a number of years, I had a really good work set up because I worked also for the Hoosick River Watershed Association, and our missions overlapped often. But in the last several years, my workload really fell, and finally it got so that it didn't seem to make sense to go to Hoorah any longer. It just wasn't meeting my financial needs, so I began to look for a new job in April of this year, after leaving the Hoosick River Watershed Association. And this came up, and it seemed like an opportunity to do something related to the things I've done, but new and different. And it was an opportunity to work with people more. I'm the only employee of the Bennington County Conservation District, and it gets kind of lonely. So being able to interact with a crew at the town hall would, I think, be a really nice change. I have always, there isn't a community in the county that I don't have really deep affection for. And Shaftsbury is no exception. And I would be pleased to do my best to be of service to the residents of Shaftsbury.
Any other members of the board have questions for Shelley? I guess I would ask, you're probably aware the zoning administrator is the guy who has to tell people that their garden wall's too close to the property line and they can't build it there. That can, David can tell you better than I can, that people don't always enjoy hearing that.
Right. Right.
Are you prepared to deal with people who don't like what you have to tell them, I guess is the way to say it?
I am, although I would say, if appointed, I would be very grateful for Dave's tutelage. But I have had a sign on my bulletin board for as long as I can remember that says, listen 80%, talk 20%. And that's been my policy for a long time, and I think that would serve me well in situations such as you mentioned. I know I can't strong-arm anybody to do what they have to do, but I certainly don't mind being the messenger and then listening to them, vent.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they vent loudly, you'll be able to handle that.
I may not have a smile on my face, but I'll certainly have a respectful look on my face.
Okay. All right.
I won't run screaming, or
Okay.
I won't run at all.
I know Shelley. Actually, we've met at a few BCCD events and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think, do you have any, are you familiarized yourself with our bylaws?
I have read, yes, I have read them.
Okay.
And I would have to point out right now that we're going to have to change one item, which is the Conservation District right now is responsible for approving ponds. And the Conservation District doesn't know anything about ponds, so,
We just went through that.
Yes, I understood that
With the
from-
Long Pond issue.
yeah.
Over the last few months, and,
Yeah.
we came up against that in needing with the PC to change some of the bylaws so
Yeah.
that they can be reviewed properly by the DRB.
That must go way, way back.
Yeah, yeah. They used to have a lot more clout, and they don't
Yeah.
now, yeah. Yeah.
Well, they used to have,
Used to have an engineer.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
That's right.
and now the state wants the final say on that. Back to our buddy Jaron, who solved that one for us, but, yeah.
Did he?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was how we finally got the approval. It was, but we did get lost in exactly what you're saying, but we can talk about that another
Yeah.
time.
Would I say that to prove that I have read the ordinance?
If you found that line, you've read them. I'll give you that.
Okay.
Well, is it up to us to make a motion that she be accepted? Is that the way it works?
Our plan is, as is our custom, is to discuss the appointment in executive session after tonight's meeting, and then announce or make the appointment when we come out of executive session. So, there are no other questions.
Okay.
I thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
Michael?
Number 10, hazardous waste mitigation plan. Mike Batcher, welcome back.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm Michael Batch with the Bennington County Regional Commission, and we had started working with Margie and Jerry and Terry and Bill Pennebaker on a hazard mitigation plan back in April. And I think I've explained this last time, but I can go over it again. And by the way, I know it's on your website, but I also have 2 hard copies in case anyone would prefer hard copies.
I prefer the electronic copy myself, so
Yeah.
you'll help yourself.
At any rate, this is a construct of FEMA. Their idea is to promote identifying potential primarily natural hazards, for instance, flooding, windstorms, in places that have earthquakes, wildfires are a natural hazard, and then try to develop ways to reduce their potential for damage. And I guess the example I like to use is a seatbelt. A seatbelt is kind of a mitigation measure that if you're in an accident, it mitigates or limits the damage that can happen to you if that occurs. So some of these are ideas that relate to reducing flooding impacts to homeowners by construction methods or making sure people don't build in flood areas, in earthquake hazard areas, there's construction techniques for that. We don't seem to have that as much of a problem as in other areas. But at any rate, what FEMA likes us to do is identify all the potential hazards, which the plan does, and we go primarily through, I think, well, I mentioned flooding, windstorms are a kind of event, landslides, different events that you can all think of. And what we've done is gone through the records and identified which ones have occurred in Bennington County. It's hard to come up with what specifically came up in Shaftsbury, but we did the best we could. And then look at the potential impacts of those and identify various actions for those. All of these are things that could happen. Where they have occurred, they've been fairly localized. In other words, even winter storms might be a different example, where they're pretty widespread. But generally, power outages tend to be localized. You don't have, in other words, we don't have events that paralyze the entire state on a regular basis. But you do have events that can affect small areas, and therefore, the idea here is to try to prepare for those. So most of these are designed either for capital improvements, for instance. They may be looking for funding for culvert redesigns. They can be education and outreach. Are there ways that people can prepare themselves for a power outage, having food or water and the like? And those are the kinds of things that you can have in the town hall or have on your website, so that it's relatively easy for people to find information that they can prepare themselves. The overall advantage of these plans, well, besides the fact that it gives you some ideas of how you can inform your residents, is that it sets you up for potential FEMA funding. And I know you are applying for a generator, and in order to get a generator for the shelter, you have to have one of these plans approved by FEMA. Also, it has repercussions for certain state funding. The state share of federal funding varies depending on whether or not you've had one of these plans, whether you have an emergency operations plan, whether you have adopted the road and bridge standards, and there's a few others which I can't remember. But if you've done all of those various things, then you get more funding than if you haven't done all of those things. So basically what we're trying to do is help you get funding if you need it. These plans are not required. You're not required to implement them. No one's going to come back and say, well, why didn't you do this kind of stuff? Of course, when you do a plan, revise the plan 5 years from now, the FEMA will then say, well, have you done any of these things? Or but they're not going to require you to do them. But they'll just want you to have taken a look at it, taken a good hard look and say, well, are we doing what we said we'd do? You were part of a plan that covered the entire county up till about 2010, and that expired. So what we're trying to do is get you updated so that you have a plan. These run for 5 years. The general procedure is that we ask FEMA for review and approval before the town adopts it. What I like to see is that the town acknowledge that this is a plan that they find acceptable, that they're making sure that the members of the public know about it, so people watching tonight will have some sense they can go to the website and look at it. Or if you wanted to have further public meetings, we can certainly do that and have a more formalized meeting. I certainly want to get all of your comments, or any comments from anyone you want to have. And then once you're satisfied with it, we can send it to FEMA and the Department of Emergency Management for their review. That generally takes a while. It depends. With Sunderland, which Dave was involved with, we got a response back from them within a couple of months. With Rupert, it took a year. So we may all forget we did this by the time it comes back. But hopefully not. In terms of the state requirements that I mentioned, once you've submitted, as far as the state is concerned, you're good. You're making the effort, and that's really all they want to see. So that's the 5-minute as opposed to the 20-minute gist. I'm glad to go into more detail.
You and Dave have been working on this plan?
Yes. Well, Margie started the process, and I said Jerry and Terry were involved, and Bill Pennebaker. So,
okay. And
then Dave has looked at it. We're following a model that we used for Sunderland. It's a model that seems to get approved by FEMA, that there's a formatting is important to them. They like to see certain things in it, and we have all those things, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is important because it does get us the extra funding in an emergency. As Mike was saying, 5 years from now, FEMA might look at some things, well, what have you done? We can think of things like the Shaftsbury Hollow culvert that has to be replaced, and certainly will be within 5 years, and we can demonstrate that we've taken mitigation steps to keep it up. So it does increase our funding a great deal to have these things in process.
Okay, so what you need from us is for all of us to read this plan and come back to the next meeting, ready to approve sending it on to FEMA.
Yeah, we can make any changes you like, just let me know how to, when I can come to the next meeting.
Can I have one of those?
You sure can.
The October 6th. Thank you.
Now, I will advise you, when you read it, there's an enormous amount of material in there on how many floods hit Bennington County. You may want to skim that part and go towards the end where there's a rather lengthy table that talks about actions, because that's really the meat of the plan. Those are the things that you probably want to know whether we're making sense. Read anything you like, feel free, but after you've gotten to winter storm number 18, you might begin to wonder why you're reading this, because,
Really?
well, yeah, because I think in the last 10 years, there have been like 124 weather events are tracked by the National Climate Data Center, and they actually, in many cases, will send out crews to look at damage assessments, and so they identified over 120 some storms that were worth considering. That's not every storm. It's like everything over like 6 inches, 8 inches of, where there were traffic accidents or power outages. Anybody report anything? We just completed the Stanford plan. I was pointing out to the select board there that their emergency management director was written up having reported a wind damage across Route 8 over there. So it's kind of a neat source of information. There's some neat stuff in there, neat little stories, but it's a lot to wade through.
Okay.
And it is on the website and has been, so anyone in the public can read it whenever they choose to. And if anyone needs a hard copy, I can make a hard copy for them, also if they come down.
So this doesn't need a public meeting though, right? Or is it?
It's good to involve the public. If you
And we
want to
can
do
maybe
anything like
make
that,
it-
we can. I think
Yeah.
having,
Make it ready for, or is it?
Well, that's why it's been on the agenda. This is the way we did it for public notification in Sunderland too, is we put it on the agenda several times. The 6th will be more or less the final hearing, but we can extend that if we have
it doesn't
more
require
questions
a
on it.
formal public hearing for that.
Nice to get feedback if they.
Yeah, well, that's why we have it on the website, like I said, and we've been putting it on the agenda, and we'll have it on again, and yeah, anything anyone wants to add to it. Jerry came down tonight for it, but I guess he had to leave. But, yeah, anything.
He
that
whispered to
anybody
me
wants-
that he thought it was okay, so he was okay with it, so. but
Yeah, yeah, he just wanted, he had asked me to let him know when we
Yeah.
were gonna be down, so.
Any more questions for Mike?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Mike.
We'll be ready to act next time.
Okay, when is your?
October 6th will be the next
October
meeting,
6th.
but we'll see you at the SWIP meeting on the 24th.
Right, but so I should plan to be here instead.
Yep.
Thank you.
And Shelley, if you can call me in the morning, because you still have like 30 items to go. So.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
And
do.
we are now up to 11 of 24.
Bruce.
Western New England Bike Path. Bruce Learman. Welcome.
Thank you. I brought maps, and I won't try to cover all of them right now. I'll just talk for a while, and then we can look at these in more detail. This is actually a poster for the Greenway, which gives you a little idea of sort of the concept behind it. The Western New England Greenway is a designated bicycle path. It's really a set of maps that define a route from the Canadian border to Norwalk, Connecticut. And in Canada, they connect with Quebec's Route Verte bicycle system. So you can go on to Montreal, and at the East Coast Greenway in Norwalk, you can get on the East Coast Greenway that runs from Maine to Florida and go to New York City if you want. So if you've got 2 weeks you want to spend riding a bicycle between New York City and Montreal, this gives you a map by which you can do it.
Only takes you 2 weeks.
I'm sorry?
Only takes 2 weeks, huh?
It'll take about 2 weeks. I have to say, I've only ridden the section from north of Burlington down to Norwalk, and that took about 6 days.
Yeah.
And we've actually ridden the route twice. We've ridden it once north to south and once south to north to prove out our route, make sure we had the markings that we wanted for the route, and to make sure that we had a cue sheet that told you every turn you needed to make and the mileages between those points. So
A what? What was it?
it's a cue sheet. It's much like you'd get from your GPS,
Okay.
only it's in printed form. And in
Okay.
fact, I have a copy of
Okay, I've
the
just.
section going through
haven't heard it.
Shaftsbury that will give you an example. There aren't many turns in the route as we're going through Shaftsbury, but I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
So this idea has been developing over the last 3 years because Bennington's in the middle of the route in this section. They've held an annual conference for the last 2 years, and will hold one in November at the Bennington Museum. And that's how I got involved with it originally. The program's been supported by the National Heritage Programs. There's the Champlain Valley National Heritage Program, and there's the Upper Housatonic Program that covers western Massachusetts and Connecticut. And they're particularly interested in this bike route because it's a good route for bicycle tourism amongst the historic sites that are in this area. And as you know, you can't go 5 miles along this entire route without finding some usually revolutionary or 1812 historic site. And bicyclists tend to have more time to look at those things and are traveling on a scale where they can really appreciate the historic history or historic monuments of the area. So the National Heritage Preservation groups have gotten behind this project to help us with it. And they've helped, like they provided a van to support us during our rides when we've done the route 2 times. The value of something like this, of course, is that it increases bicycle tourism. And what we're trying to lay out here is a spine route that you can follow if you want to go relatively directly. But we anticipate that there are going to be a lot of local side routes to heritage sites and spur routes to run into town. As we go through Shaftsbury, we're basically coming up Maple Hill Road and taking East Road into Bennington. You basically stay on that route all the time. Touring bicyclists don't like being on the road very much with other cars, and of course they're looking for scenic views. Something like Maple Hill may seem kind of daunting to you if you've ever ridden up it on a bicycle, but that generally doesn't worry people who are out there just to see a scenic view as they go from one end to the other. And the nice thing about bicycle tourists is, whereas a car driver may need some place to stay every 400 or 500 miles, a bicyclist needs a place to stay every 60 miles and needs a place to eat something about every 10 miles. So places like the Chocolate Barn and the Village Chocolate Shop in East Arlington are popular sites with bicyclists. Mm-hmm. And as are many of the inns and local places along the way. And we would anticipate that this will increase that level of tourism in the area because what we're trying to do is get it designated as part of the U.S. bike route system. The American Association of State Highway Transportation Organizations, otherwise known as AASHTO, has taken upon itself to define a nationwide bicycle network of bicycle routes. And this would be U.S. Bike Route 7 that we're talking about here. It fit into that network. And I can give you more references if you want more information about those organizations. What I would tell you is that right now people are already riding this route. As we say, you can download the maps from the Western New England Greenway website and all the cue sheets that tell you where to turn and point out some of the sites along the way in a general way, as this one does. But to get that bike route designation, we need 3 things. One is we need the designated route, and we need the cue sheets. And we already have those, and those have been approved by the state of Vermont. The Vermont has to actually make the application for the bike route designation. In the southern half of the state, we've laid out the whole route. In the northern half of the state, there is what's known as the Lake Champlain Bikeway, which is a bike path all the way around Lake Champlain, and we're using their routing. The state of Vermont has already approved that routing, so it's just the southern half of the state that I'm out soliciting support for. What we need to get this designation is for every responsible authority for any piece of road that we ride on to give us a letter of support. I already have the one from Pownell. I'm on the agenda for the Bennington, town of Bennington, whenever, they've got a lot of things on their plate this summer, so they haven't been able to work me in. And then I'll go on north, and others are taking over from Sunderland, Manchester, Dorset, and on up to Fairhaven, where we join the Lake Champlain Bikeway. So what I'm really asking for from you is a letter of support from the town of Shaftsbury. There are two parts to this. One is just that you basically think it's a good idea, and the second thing is that later on, when we get the bike route designation, we would provide signage for the route, but we'd of course like to be able to display them along the route in Shaftsbury as much as possible using existing signposts. They'd just be added on there. Here's an example of what the signage would look like once we get the designation. Of course, ours would say US Bike Route 7.
Right.
And I've also provided for you, this is just sort of a dummy draft of a resolution that shows what we're looking for in terms of support for the project. Just one more. I think I got one more.
You say
So-
it's okay to hook that to an existing, I mean, the state will allow us to put that on?
Yes, they will.
existing-
And on the state routes, that's what we'll do. We'll use existing signposts. Where we're on a local road, of course, we need the cooperation of the lowest local jurisdiction. There'd be no charge for the signs. We will provide the signs. Again, the Heritage Foundation or Heritage programs will probably underwrite funding for those when we get to that point. So, and on the back of that, there's a kind of a sketchy map of where it goes through Shaftsbury and an example of the cue sheet that we would use riding through there. Basically, we start out on, we come up Park Street and the East Road out of Bennington, take East Road up under Route 7 and join into Maple Hill Road, traverse Shaftsbury and go down into East Arlington there. So we're on gravel most of the time after we get into Shaftsbury. Again, most touring bicyclists are riding on fat tires, carrying heavy loads. Gravel's not much of a problem. Actually, East Road, people like East Road because it's a very pretty route and it's a lot of hard pan, so it's really not that bad on it.
Well, I'm inclined to agree with going along with this resolution. I think we need to read it through and fill in the blanks appropriately and bring it up at the next meeting. Is
that the consensus of the board?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I would mention to you also, this kind of fits with another little idea that the select board has of creating essentially a historic water stop at the headwaters of Coal Spring in South Shaftsbury. We're applying for a grant to make that happen, and if it does happen, it would be a perfect little side trip off of the main road for bicyclists to go and visit, learn some history, and get a drink from fresh spring water.
Right, and that's just exactly the kind of thing they're trying to tie in as part of the historic work. So I appreciate that. That's good. We use sections of the Delaware and Hudson Rail Trail that runs from Rupert up to Castleton. Between Pulteney and Castleton, we're on the D&H Rail Trail. And of course, we use the Ashewilticook in Massachusetts, which is a beautiful rail trail. Well, I thank you for your support.
Thank you.
For your
It's a
time.
good
I have
project.
another map here I can leave with you if you like that shows the route up to Shoreham, just to show where we tie in with it. But
It's over.
it goes we come in on Route 7, but as soon as we get into Pownell, we're off on Burrington Road and secondary roads there. And pretty much all the way on secondary roads. There's a few places where we're on Route 7, a few places where we're on 7A, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's prettier on that side anyway.
I'm sorry?
It's prettier on that side anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Item 12, North Bennington tax appeal. That, I was just planning to,
Yeah, that was
Bring
put
people
on
up to speed.
before the hearing that you were all part of, so there actually is no.
Yes, were we all there the other day? That was a
We were.
BCA meeting?
were you there?
I wasn't there. I don't
Okay,
know.
yeah, at least for Mitch's benefit and also for the public. The history here is that in the process of digitizing and computerizing our tax maps, the listers came across a property that was not on any tax maps, and it is the property where the North Bennington Water Department sits, the water purification plant sits, and the surrounding
Watershed.
the surrounding watershed, yes. They started looking into the history, trying to figure out what to do about it. The land had been taxed by Shaftsbury until the 60s, and then at that time, folks looked at the law and decided that as a public use, it did not need to be taxed, and so it was not taxed. When the listers approached the state about the current legal situation, they were advised to a newer statute that said a municipal corporation that sets in another municipality shall be taxed. It doesn't really say we may tax it, it says shall be taxed. That's the way we read it, that's the way the language reads. So we sent North Bennington a notification that we were planning to tax the water department lands. The tax bill, I believe, came to around $6,000. There are limits on what we can tax them. We can't tax them for the full amount of the improvements, the buildings and all of that. We can tax them for the land and a fraction more of the land that's in compensation for all the buildings improvements that we're not allowed to tax. North Bennington continues to argue that it's a public use and should not be taxed. They appealed to the BCA, the Board of Civil Authority, to have their, the first thing they appealed was they filed their appeal late, their tax appeal late. And so we met last week just to hear whether or not they had sufficient excuse to be excused from being late. And we sought legal advice from Vermont's League of Cities and Towns. They advised us that in this situation, it really needed to be an excuse beyond the taxpayer's control. After hearing from the taxpayers, from North Bennington and their attorney, there was nothing there that said we had done anything wrong, the listers had done anything wrong, they just didn't get it in on time. And our reading of the statute was we did not have discretion to grant them an excuse for being late. So as it stands now, they requested an excuse for being late on their tax appeal. It was denied, so unless we hear from again, we assume that they will pay their taxes. Is that about the size of it?
That's about it. And just for clarification for people listening, when Tim is saying we, he's talking about the Board of Civil. It's not the Select Board, it's the Board of Civil Authority.
Right, the Board of Civil Authority, which consists of the Select Board, the Justices of the Peace, and the Town Clerk.
The town clerk. But yeah, so otherwise, it's just done, there's nothing going on at this point.
So, yeah, as far as we know, it's done until we hear from North Bennington again. All right, item 13, Community Solar Project.
I also bring this up, I have gotten emails from Sovereign Solar, who have made a couple of presentations to us about the idea of putting a solar electricity project on our landfill cap. I have kind of been dragging my feet on that. The last word that I heard from them is that as they looked into it more, their anticipated cost and potential risks associated with putting solar panels on the landfill required them to reduce the deal that they could offer us in terms of discount on our electricity. Originally, we were talking about 10% discount on electricity. Now we're talking about a 5% discount on electricity. They have also, Sovereign Solar, have also started talking more about a community solar project where rather than selling electricity to the town and probably also the school, they would sell it to individual households, to individual customers in Shaftsbury. I have been of the opinion, I've kind of come to the opinion that the upside of this project was originally modest. You know, a 10% discount on electricity is down to a 5% discount on electricity. I should also mention there's also a lease payment that they would pay for the land, which I believe is $2,500. But still, so we would be talking about now, if in the case of a community solar project, a $2,500 a year lease on the landfill cap to the town, and then a 5% discount on electricity to the people who got into the solar project. And it's not at all clear how that would be done, perhaps by lottery, I don't know, because it wouldn't be enough to provide electricity to the whole town, I don't believe. But the downside in my mind is that Sovereign Solar, despite their best intentions, does something wrong and they puncture the landfill cap. We end up with an expensive problem. They go out of business and we've got a mess. That may be unlikely, but again, as I see it, the upside is not all that exciting anymore. And if I thought we had a piece of land other than the landfill cap that was doing nothing and would be a great place to put solar, I'd be more inclined to pursue it further. But my current thinking is not to pursue it. And I would add one other point. Somebody is also pitching to, I read in the paper, and I've also heard talking to the school board members that a similar pitch is being made to the SVSU, the school district. And so without us doing anything, the school may end up getting some sort of discount on their electricity through a solar project anyway. So that's the situation. I welcome comments from the board.
Didn't you say, we looked at the landfill and the liability of them when they were building up that was covered in the contract, that they would cover all that. You're worried about if they fold up because of something like that, right?
Yes, they say that they will create an escrow account that will protect us against that eventuality. And without going into the details of their contract, I would just have the worry that would that really protect us? If they have not done one of these yet. They have not built a solar project on a landfill. So if a whole lot of people sign on and they put a whole bunch of them on landfill caps and they all go wrong, is that escrow fund going to be enough to cover all of us, I guess, would be my worry.
Well, they're going to have to ask permission to use our landfill space, wouldn't they?
No.
Yes, that's what they're asking for. They're asking us to enter into this deal that would allow them to rent the landfill. Yeah, they want to take a lease out on the landfill cap, put solar on top of it, and then sell electricity to customers in Shaftsbury. And it's also up to a 30-year deal that they want to make now.
Yeah, we changed over, they could sell it they could sell the rights every 7 to 10 years or something like that. They would have different investors after so long, however that worked. I kind of like the idea personally, but the liability and not, I thought one of the presentations said they had done it on a landfill before. The first presentation from Integrated Solutions.
That may be.
And I think that they were talking, they had done the one up in Rutland maybe. But at this stage of the game, I think I mean, we were talking this spring, like having it done, started and up and running for this winter, and I don't, that's water over the dam at this point. And
Yeah, I think I think a lot of this is being driven by federal credits for building solar installations, and there's a lot of companies trying to get in and get that federal credit, get the thing done, and a lot of these deals are, in my mind, are really set up to get them built and make money for the initial investors, which is not us. It's the people who are putting up the money to
get the
put
tax
in the
right
solar
out
panels.
to get tax credits.
Yeah, and then, you know, they have it set up, their spreadsheets show that, you know, in 7 to 10 years, they'll have made the right amount of money, and then they'll be ready to sell them. People like us are committed for 20 or 30 years to this project.
Life of the project.
I guess, just a little bit more, Tim sent out an email just saying, did we want to discuss this anymore at a meeting? And I said, I think it's at least we need to discuss it in public so that we're clear that we are not in favor of it.
Okay.
That's,
Not in favor of moving forward at this
Yes.
time with this deal.
Okay, then I would make a motion that we resolve that we are not in favor of pursuing a solar project on the landfill cap at this time.
second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think mainly I just want to be able to communicate that to Sovereign Solar, because they've been asking. Item 14, vacation policy.
Okay,
You want to carry that ball?
Yeah, there's been some requests from people in the garage, and myself included, also on changes to the vacation policy to make it clearer about how it works.
This is, let's be clear, this is the vacation policy
For-
principally for the road crew.
Principally for the road crew. Other than myself, I don't think it applies to anyone. I know it doesn't apply to anyone. But the way it is now, at the start of each fiscal year, they basically have 0 time, and it takes the full year to accrue the number of vacation days they're entitled to for that year. My simple proposition here is to convert it so that at the beginning of the fiscal year, you're given your, say, 10 vacation days. I would convert those days to a more manageable. In the case where an employee might use his time and then quit. Okay, if there's a paycheck left, you can look to hold that money out. It would be a rare employee in the very beginning who might do that, but once any employee is vested in the town, once he's here 3-4 years, they're not going to pull out. They have a lot of time here, and they're certainly not going to get a rosy recommendation if they try and bill this out of vacation time. And once you're invested in the town, once you leave Amherst, and once you have your job here, to me, it's unlikely that we would run into an issue with taking time and then leaving the job. It makes it clearer for the guys what they can take. And again, like I said, another aspect of looking at it is if someone needed to take a half day because some medical issues come up and they want to do it, they could cut time. Or if they just wanted to take a half day to do something, they could do that if it was on hours. In the end, it all works out to the same amount of time.
My only comment is that, are you comfortable with having it start along with our fiscal year as opposed to January, first of the year?
I've been told by the bookkeeper and the treasurer that if the town's moving on a fiscal year, it's better that vacation moves on a fiscal year. Because you'd run into payroll issues because it's being done at separate times.
Okay, but to help us Have you talked to them about
Yeah, it's what they just wanna see is, instead of negative numbers, they wanna see, okay, well, I had 80 hours, I have 40 left. You know, they don't wanna see minus
Yes.
20, which I can understand that. That can be an issue for them. And the only other issue we talked about was to move the date you had to the end of December to use up any time left over by the prior year. We talked about extending that through the fiscal year. So if you carried over your 5 days from, say, fiscal 14 to 15, you would have to the end of fiscal 15 to use those days from 14, or in this case, the hours from 14. That allows, which a couple of people have mentioned to me, and I understand this also, that they could actually create a float bank for 5 days that could be used in an emergency somewhere down the line. The 14 days they would carry over, those would become 15 days of carrying over into 16. But there'd be 5 additional days there that, if they wanted, someone could carry in a bank, basically, like bumping the first year into the second and so on. And if something comes up, you know, it's a way of, you know, to put food on the table in a bad situation.
I spoke to Lon McClintock to get previous select board chair to get a sense of what the thinking was when this policy was implemented. Particularly, in my mind, the big change is changing the date from when they lose their carried over vacation from December 1 to letting them carry it over for the whole year. And the thinking back then was that they didn't, they wanted their vacation used up before they got into snow season. But they didn't want people trying to take vacation in the snow season. But I think, I agree with David, and from what I've heard from Terry and the guys, is that they want to be able to carry a pool of days through the year to, you know, cover emergencies, sick days, you know, stuff like that. And so this is, I think this is an easy way to allow them to do that. It allows them to carry that 5 days that they carry over from year to year through the next year, rather than, you know, them, you know, having to use potentially vacation they haven't earned yet, which, as David says, makes them nervous.
I think the hour going from days to hours makes sense, especially with the 10-hour days and the 8-hour days in the summer and different.
Yeah, you actually have to do that.
Yeah,
You
that's,
can't track it.
I like the 5 days, being able to be brought over. If you don't use it, you've got it for the next year, floaters.
Yeah, it's max 5.
Yeah, the
Yeah, then you
You know,
can't,
it's
you
just
can only do
5.
5, that's so you used to.
Right.
I support them, actually.
Need a motion to accept it, is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, we need a motion to amend our personnel policy as indicated here in this copy called Personnel Policy 2014-0908 Vacation Changes. So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
If you, I'll get a copy of it and we'll
Yeah,
get it
it's-
as a policy book.
This is the copy that's in Dropbox.
Okay.
And we haven't changed it, so.
Okay.
Scale for the landfill.
Scale for the landfill. Our current vendor, the background is we had a issue with the scale up at the landfill. It is shot electronics. We had the fuse replaced. But the real issue turned out to be that a service call from our people is costing nearly $600 just to come. It's not acceptable. I went to 3 different companies. There's one in I said it's wrong, Agawam, Massachusetts, somewhere by Springfield. Their rates are almost the same, and they're almost the same distance. I talked to the scale company, Charles Twist, over here, Scale Service and Supply in Albany. They can provide us with a scale. It's brought here, an electronic, same type of scale. Different brand, of course, because they're all but it would be, the price of the scale would be $1740, installed, calibrated, certified with the state would be an extra $200. So we could get this here for $1940. That's the original cost. But more importantly, the service is $75 quarter to portal, and they're from Albany. So our service call is gonna go down way, way more. I mean, we call, right now, we call to get our scale serviced, and it's basically $600 before they take the call. We can't get any other company to come here because they have territories. So this would be the scale, it's a cardinal scale. I mean, you know, it's just a basic mechanical floor scale like the one we have. It can just weigh the garbage bags. I did get some questions because I was looking at the bar scale, but Shelley and Joe Herman, people who work up there, they're like, people are going to start getting flushed with this thing, sliding it, and will lead to delays, will lead to lines, and so the digital scale is probably just easier and more efficient to keep everything moving up there. We'll look into a way to make this a little bit more weather tight, just to be on the safe side. But Charlie tells me that this is completely acceptable outdoors, used outdoors, it won't be a problem. Like I said, the initial cost at $1940 is installed, delivered, installed, certified, calibrated, paperwork sent to the state. And then where we really save is we're being serviced out of Albany, not out of St. Johnsbury, not out of Agawam. And we do need to have a company that can come certify. It has to be certified. If we start weighing anything, it has to be certified by the state.
Does it come with any, historical data? Like, you can set a day, how much you took in on this date by weight? I mean, it's electronic, I'm just wondering. Pardon?
Not to 1740.
I mean, it just seems like that would be a natural progression.
That would be,
That would be. However, well, I can already see the conflict when the dumpster weighs one thing, because somebody walked in and threw bags in when we weren't looking, and we're bringing revenue this way. But I mean, basically, the function of this is simply to weigh the bag of garbage so we can sell the correct amount of stickers. The prices are all basically the same. You're really dealing with the service cost.
We've already spent, what, two?
Oh, we bought like the equivalent of what we spent on service costs for this thing. We could have bought a new one every year. I mean, it's incredibly expensive.
so did we get any rebate on the old scale?
No, because actually when they came down, and well, I haven't looked into selling that yet, but we should be able to get something for it hopefully. But when they came down, they actually did do the repair. They put the fuse in. I would not pay for the second trip for the guy to go back and get the fuse.
I know, that was gall. That was just gall.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the white paint.
But the first service charges were traditional in the business, and we just had a contractor that was way too far away. So now we're just getting it with a guy right over here in Rensselaer, actually, not even in Albany. And he told me that one of the service guys is pretty close to here, so if we schedule it right, we'll only get portal from his house here. So that's where we're going to save money. It's the only place we're going to save money. So.
Do you need a motion to,
Well, I can just,
check on this?
yeah, if it's okay with Lana, just a motion to approve and purchasing it, but I don't see an alternative. Unless you don't want to get the electronic scale, but I think they're right after talking with them that it'll just lead to backing up there.
Yeah, okay.
If it's okay, then I'll just go ahead and order it tomorrow.
Let's make a motion.
I'll make a motion to purchase a new scale from the Albany supplier, or Rensselaer supplier, for $1,740 plus the $200 calibration and certification for $1,940.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
16, truck financing bids.
I just have a little bit different than that for
And we should look at that, or you just want me to bring up one?
I think it'd be easier to look at this one. I put a few more figures in here for you to look at. Everybody wants a copy right there. Basically, when it comes down to it, these are all very similar, but it hands down, the 5-year tax exempt leasing is the lowest interest rate and the lowest total interest paid at 8107. It fits into our current debt service expenditures now. It would take a lot of this, would take us to 2019 to pay this off. The first year is the down payment, $30,000. We have to add a little 360 in there to make it work out for it. And it does not include the 2,800 that was added on after the original bid was approved. The extended warranty.
The extended
Yeah,
warranty.
yeah.
So, even though this is a lease, do we own it at the end of?
You know, at the end, like $1 payment at the end of the lease.
$1 payment?
Yeah. That's what satisfies the lease and you pay it off. And the only thing I came up with, if tax exempt, was 2 years of audited financial statements. We do not have audited financial statements here, but I spoke to them, and we can cover that with other paperwork. It's just, most towns don't have audited financial paperwork, so they have to make some allowance for that. We have bought from all three of the people, or we financed with all three of these people. But like I said, the bottom line is the lowest overall interest we pay is through tax exempt.
Would you recommend the 5, 6, or 7 year?
5 years. I would recommend 5 years because you're coming up to a point here in a few years, 2016, 17, where we're going to pay off 2 things in 16, another thing in 17, and then we have, this would be paid off in 19, and the last would be the excavator man would be paid off in 20. It's going to give, we do 5 years of shorten the payment on this. It's going to give this board and future boards the opportunity to look at moving money to maybe put more aside, put more money down, to do what you were talking about, or maybe even start putting money aside to have a pay-as-you-go. Some of these things should have a much longer lifespan. If you push this out 7 years, we're saving, not saving anything, but, you know, we're actually paying more interest if we go out further. We have the money now. Right now, if you took the payment of $34,000, it would only raise the debt expenditure by $4,000 for next year. This is already, we have this $30,000 in there. The down payment's already in this year's budget, the debt expenditure, so the annual payment's only $4,000 more. So that would stay completely the same next year, and then it starts dropping significantly in 2016 and 2017. In those 2 years alone, you're looking at close to $170,000 coming off. I mean, the pumper, and the loader is a $90,000 one coming off in a couple of years. And those both should last a significant amount of time. And then we can look at what to do and where to put money away to buy the next things coming up. Or, ultimately it frees up money for other projects that have to be done. And it gives us a break here too, to start examining equipment and lifespans and the type of equipment that should be brought into to replace what we have down the road.
Make a motion to accept tax exempt leasing at 2.59% for 5 years with the initial payment of $30,360 and 2 to 5 year payment of $34,564.
There is one, if I can interrupt you, because these are proposals, given the market fluctuation, the interest rate might be a little bit different. I have to bring back the firm, but I need your permission to go with the tax exempt and get a firm out and bring back on the 6th. This will give us justice in the rate.
He thought he said an interest rate, but he didn't really.
Okay.
At a rate to be determined. There you go. Not to exceed. Second? Second. Art? Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, 17, agreement for town to take responsibility for catch drains.
This has to do with the around the block sidewalk. Grant over here, this is Trevor's Corner. This is the last thing that would have to be done. We could either not take responsibility for the catch basin, or just have the town be responsible for cleaning. I think it's much more workable for the town to be responsible for it. We're giving easements on the corner. We're supposed to maintain the corner, it's the corner right over here. And the catch basin which has to go in for drainage, we would clean that. It seems pretty straightforward. I don't know how else we would do it. I don't know why. But it has to come before you guys, just so you know. I'm gonna send this to the attorney, just to go over this as a legal document. And then we should just sign it. It's the last thing we need to do to start construction plans. The project's on track. It's just a piece of paperwork that needs to go through.
We're responsible for other,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the truck comes once a year and we pay for it and
Yeah.
it's just another one added to the
It's just another
list.
one, and just cleans it out. We paid Trevor $10 once, just as token for the easement to the property, and the easements for the construction, for having material on his property while we construct it. Then we take care of the corner and the pavement, so this is just one more little thing. I'll send it to Wilmington to just go over if the town wants me to, because it's already going through the engineers and the architects and everything. But it would take Rob, 5 minutes to look through it, just to make sure, and we'll sign it at the next meeting. Or we'll send it to Trevor, and it may be 2 meetings before it gets back to us. But that puts us exactly on track for the sidewalk grant.
Okay, without objection, we'll let you go ahead and do that.
Okay, sorry. Grant list errors and omissions.
You're doing great. Grand list errors and omissions.
Okay, grand list errors and omissions. This is on a parcel of land that, over the years, had the wrong number of acres.
Right.
The acreage was reduced, and you saw that in the letter I sent to you. This just adjusts the tax rate. It had been 15 acres. In fact, it's only 8.41 acres. The reduction in the tax impact is $76.40. Most of the land that was in question here was wetland and swamp and just wasn't very productive. So all we need really is a signature by the chair of the select board, the vote by the board to accept this. This is a standard thing when the listers determine that an error or an omission was made in assessing property, they can simply request the select board to sign off on the correction. And this is pretty straightforward. Now it's been done digitally. We can tell that they don't have 15, and they never have, even though it's been on their property for years.
Now, if this is signed off by the select board, I mean, is the town liable to reimburse
No,
the individual
No.
for X amount of years for being
No.
wrong?
No.
Even if they push it?
no,
Okay.
not that I'm aware of, but anybody can,
If they push it, they would make an appeal to the BCA.
Yeah.
And we would have a hearing on
Yeah.
it like we did the other day.
The policy is only go back 1 year.
Yeah.
They've never gone back more than,
yeah.
You mean the tax maps and the discrepancies and so forth?
Well,
you know,
there's
go back to the last year.
there's a kind of, they assume that if you send tax bills every year and you're looking at 15 acres, that it's kind of your responsibility also to know the extent of your property.
Well, you hire people to tell you what it is. I'm not a surveyor.
Oh, but but then again, it comes back to if you had a question and you needed to hire one, you should have hired one. And if they told you 15 instead of 8.41, those are the people you go after.
Yeah, okay, I mean, I know about this, but I did ask at the last meeting, the special meeting too, I'd like to get a list of all the errors that they've found putting in the CAI cartographics, the GIS system for the listers, because I know this isn't the first one. I think they're
Yeah.
fairly, not big or anything, but so we're aware of them as the select board, I think we ought to be.
All right, and let me, I can talk to the listers about getting, I'm not at all sure how many errors are there.
Yeah,
I know one of the
I've
purposes
known
of
of a
this being
couple.
done is to rectify all these issues.
But it'd be nice to,
And I know we had talked briefly about having Jim come to a meeting, so maybe we can schedule that down the road in October or something if you'd like. for Jim to come, because really,
Get an update.
yeah, for these things, you need one of the listers here, because it is a separate, complete function that they do. So we can get Jim to come, or Larry to come, or both. Dina.
Well, Jim would probably give us a more of a.
Yeah, this is what he's doing.
Up-to-date report of
And
what
he
he's
can-
doing, where he is, where he stands. I mean, is there a dev system that we can go out and look at now? I mean, I thought that was part of this whole reason we were going was, yeah, so the people in the town could go to a system eventually. He's still vetting it out. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
And I want to know what the timeline is to finish this
And
up.
that, yeah, that's something you're definitely gonna have to have Jim. This is his
Okay.
program. I've used a bunch of it in zoning, because it is very handy. It'll give you a butters, it'll give you the acreage.
So we have it in-house here.
Yeah, and he has way more than I'm using. I mean, I'm just using mapping and butter list and things like that. Don't even know what he's doing over there as far as how much detail he has.
But I thought eventually we'd be able to get a link through the town website into this system, so if you wanted
This
to
is the letter that goes along with
look
it.
at something, you could look at something.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember with the first demo we had, there was all sorts of other stuff they could put on this, and we were debating whether that information, we want any of that information to be public, or not, and a lot of it was no, we don't want the layout of the house out there. And
Well, I'll get a Jim in to come in on the 6th or the 20th.
Okay.
And these are really questions he has to answer.
Okay.
It's his ballpark there.
I mean, it just seems like it's been going on a while, and maybe it's not been that long, I don't know, I'm just.
Yeah,
I thought
it was in process when I got
1,800
here.
properties, you put them into a system. I don't know how many he does a week or a month or whatever, but I don't think we're the only shop he's working with either, so.
No.
But I wanna just get an update,
Okay.
status.
All right, I would move that the select board accept the error and accept and correct the error indicated in the memo from the listers to the select board dated September 4, 2014, that changes the acreage of the property at 1197 Route 7A, Kathy Link property.
The parcel 152.022.
It's the Stone House.
It's a stone house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, that's good. The parcel 152.022 changes the acreage for tax purposes from 15 acres to 8.41 acres.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
For sale. Where's like that?
She gave me a tour of it. Used to be a green mill and a blacksmith shop.
Oh, sure.
Municipal streetlight and public lighting program. You may have, like me, read in the paper the other day that North Bennington is getting Vermont Efficiency Vermont and Green Mountain Power to replace a lot of their streetlights with LED streetlights that use, I think, about a tenth of the electricity. They're paying for most of the cost of the streetlights, and North Bennington is going to end up paying a lot smaller electric bill for street lighting. I wrote to David to see, actually just CC'd David, I was writing to Vermont Efficiency to see if the program was still active, and
Yep.
David contacted them and found out we can still do that.
Yeah, we can sign on as soon as we sign this agreement, which I can fill out the details tomorrow if you want to just sign. This just starts the process. It's of no cost to us whatsoever. After Green Mountain Power gets done assessing how many lights we have, well, they know how many lights we have, they will make a presentation. The only cost that will come to us at any point is it's $100 a fixture to change. Depending on the depreciation of each fixture they've put up, If we're replacing a fairly new fixture, we might have to pay a little bit more. That would be our only cost. But I have no idea when these streetlights went up, so that we would only know at the end, and we would have a decision point there. But I would think it would even out, that we would definitely be saving money. To the best of my recollection at the moment, I believe we're paying around $1,200 a month for streetlights, so if we reduce this even in half, we're saving $7,000 or so.
I think it's more like a 10, yeah.
Yeah, so, we could really, there's no harm in doing this. I frankly wasn't aware of the program until I saw it. Just called him up and said, fill out the paperwork and we'll start the process. So I don't know how long it will take. I think it would be fairly manageable to work our way through this and start saving money.
It wasn't over 6 months ago that North Bennington talked about it, and I saw the Green Mountain Power trucks already putting them up.
Yeah, and the lighting is not bad. Some people were worried about it being harsh lighting, but it doesn't seem to be, yeah. So as soon as we do this, the sooner they'll start looking, and we'll get them converted. I doubt we have all new lights here, so I don't think that's going to come up to be an issue, so, yeah. So this is the main page here. Just has, if you sign for the municipality, and I'll fill out the contact information for myself on the bottom of here.
Okay. All right, well, I would ask permission from the board to sign this agreement to start the process of working with Efficiency Vermont to replace our streetlights with LED streetlights.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 That's nice.
That's not bad. I thought it'd be a lot in coffee.
You don't be asleep.
Maybe I can start addressing this while we're waiting. The first part on mine is a letter to Mr. Labarge. It's back to the sidewalk project again. They need a letter from the select board saying that I'm now the principal contact for the project.
Without objection?
He's the man.
Lucky me. The next item, if you don't mind, I'll just keep going. The next item we already covered was the electrical lighting update in the garage, which I have the one estimate from Myers Electric, which is just a little bit over the $3,000 threshold. If we do that, then I have to get two more. This was a general discussion, so maybe we'll specify this a little bit better, and we'll get some better lighting in the garage. Just pass this around. This is a meeting agenda for our town plan, which I got as an attachment from BCRC, that they're having up in Hildene. We're not required to be there, but.
Yes. Yeah, I got this in email. I'm planning to
Okay.
be there.
Coal hole roof repair, we're just waiting for the crane. If you notice the building, I had to have protectors put on the wires and on the connection to the building. They came with a ladder, that wasn't gonna work, so they have to get a crane, so I had to cover all the wires, I could get the crane up. Gonna be 28 pieces initially, but once you start doing it, you start running into more things. It's gone up double in price, we're a little under 3,000 right now. It's not optional, you can see where things need to be repaired, so hopefully that'll be done fairly quickly right now, and we'll get done. We're just waiting for them to arrange it.
Who was doing it?
Doxy,
Doxy?
the original contract with them, Margie had done, and when they showed up one morning, it was clear that it wasn't gonna work. They needed, but someone has to be in a bucket up there
Yeah.
to do this correctly. So that's been the delay with that. The new computers, we talked about that already. Tim was given information from Rob this morning about possibly getting the towers redone. I had originally was going to order 3 towers to replace the XP towers here. They're on hold, so the only computer we ordered was Judy's to replace hers. Hers is really mission critical here if that gets damaged. So hers will be ordered tomorrow. along with the cables that fell off the order months ago, and we'll just get those now and have everything locked down. And
Yeah, we have 4 computers that are still running Windows XP. Windows XP is no longer supported, so we're not really protected against malware on those computers, so they need to be replaced. We priced out 4 new computers, and then,
Yeah.
as I indicated earlier, Rob Stewart at RCS offered that they took some computers in that, in the course of doing a project that are in good shape, they don't need, and offered them to us. So we're going to be talking with Rob, see what they are, but it sounds like they're close to what we were going to buy, so we'll end up having to buy 2 computers, the one for Judy, another tower, and then we'll get these 2 towers from
These 2
Rob for
towers.
free, and then we just have to spend $100 to put Windows 7 on.
Yeah. Because the towers are very low, but Judy's is a pretty high-performance computer. And it'll have a laptop, so she can detach the laptop to take to elections, instead of having 2 systems. She has a laptop and her desk right now, so it would all be in one spot. It's a very good
Got a
system.
docking station.
Yeah, docking station, yep. So it'll work out good.
We're concerned about the lockdowns, was that been taken care of?
That's the
Taken
cables he was talking
Oh,
about.
that's the
Yeah,
cables.
yeah,
That,
yeah.
we had approved that, it just,
Way back when I was.
piece of paperwork got stuck under a
Yeah.
shoe somewhere, and it didn't actually get put in
Okay.
place, but
Yeah.
now it's happening.
It'll be ordered tomorrow, so.
Quick question now, the office supplies, those are coming out of the office budget, right? The,
Yes. Yeah, Judy's computer is going to be half out of the elections budget and half out of the clerk's maintenance budget. Let's see, and so will the battery come out of that? The towers, well, depending on what we do now, the towers, I was going to take Judy Connect's, replace hers out of the administration budget, because she does stuff back and forth with us. The listers, we're gonna pay for theirs, and the garage was gonna pay for those. Those are the XPs that are left. But now if we're getting 2 for free, we can really cut that down.
So these are towel PCs, do they hitch into the network? Do they have availability to hitch into the NIMRIC system, or? no?
Yeah, well, that's just a matter of getting Rob in here and he's on
Wire 'em
contract
up,
to
set 'em up,
wire 'em,
okay.
yeah, so they would just set them up. We don't need anything except a tower. We just need to get rid of XP, and it has to go. If something happened, especially with Judy's, which is the one that concerns me the most, if there's too much stuff in hers, that would be a problem. That would be a problem. And one last thing, gentlemen here, the SWIP meeting was the 24th at 4 PM at CCV in Bennington. And they sent out this, I put it in the packet, this survey. I've completed a lot of the data on the survey and submitted it to Lynn to get this moving. She's going to call me to do the telephone interview. It's just to set up a database for the town so we can move forward in a new SWIP. And I indicated that we were more interested in being an alliance than a district, because we don't want to lose the independence. If we're in a district, we get told what to do. And the alliance is a little bit tighter structured than what we are now, which is just kind of showing up at meetings. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I don't like the district, because then someone will just come and say, here, we're raising your rates, you know.
We hired someone, your rates are going.
Yeah, that's about it. And that is it for me.
Any other business?
Thanks for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, I had to go through
I
all
got
the
this thing and
TAM
I'm like-
bills to find out what they wanted.
Some of these
leaks.
questions I didn't even know how to answer. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, how much trash was thrown, you know, I had to go through the year's worth of TAM bills to come up with those numbers.
Have you heard anything, Dave, on that culvert in Shaftsbury Hollow?
The culvert in Shaftsbury?
Anything more?
No, that's coming up, but it's not, you mean the big one?
The big one?
Yeah. That's a major funding issue. That's gonna be addressed next year. It can't be done.
They hadn't come up with anything for a size for the new one or anything?
Oh, yeah, I'll show you that. That's downstairs.
How about the idea that I had of building the new culvert on the outlet end of the existing culvert? So you
Yeah,
didn't
that's
to
something
do
we
a
have
bridge.
to, you know, as we get done with these projects and we start with the next project, which that'll be one. East Road is up for paving.
Yeah,
Then we have to sit down and start going through this and alternatives to do it.
You say move the road a little bit?
Well, no, what you do, what my idea is where your outlet of the existing culvert is,
Yes.
just build the new culvert there. Leave the existing one right there. And then when you get done with it, just take the old one down.
Which means you're moving the road a little bit.
Yeah, just move the road downstream.
And the other way, because where it is at the Hollow Hideaway, to work on it in place, we're gonna have to build an alternate
Yeah.
road anyway.
Right.
So it does make sense, however we do it, we're gonna have to build a temporary road anyway, so we'll just build a road, and I agree. I think that's even what the state, I guess that's what the state had in mind, in the very preliminary stuff I saw was, we would build a road, build a new culvert, and the road would now be over here, we just take that one out and that'd be it.
Yeah.
It'd be I think it'd be foolish
Oh,
to
it's-
build a whole temporary bridge here
Yeah.
to work on the culvert and then put it all back, and, you know, for the volume of traffic there, it's, you know, if they have to turn a little bit like this, it won't be the end. Might even make some people happy to slow
Well,
down.
it's gonna make the road straighter.
Yeah, actually it would there, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, if there is no other business, the action items I caught, Joe and Jim are, we need to get with them and schedule a visit to Twitchell Hill to look at the pumping station upgrade that they want to do. So I'll add my name to that, and I'll lead on the
Just
scheduling
send
there.
something out.
I'll talk to them and then, or just put an email out to all of us.
That'd be
and We
great.
can say when we can do it. David's gonna see if he can find another White Creek line painter who has
Yeah,
white paint.
we'll look into something else, somebody who actually carries white paint on their truck.
And then you're gonna make an application to the DRB for our salt shed?
Yeah, I'll do a building permit, and we'll put it through, we'll talk to them preliminarily on Wednesday, but it has to go through the same warning process as everything else. And we have to follow the same rules as anybody else in the town with it.
The select board all needs to read the hazard mitigation plan and be prepared to approve next time sending it to FEMA. David and I will work on filling in the blanks on that bicycle resolution and come prepared to have you sign off on that, on the bicycle greenway, bicycle route thing. And then, David, can you get with the listers and arrange for them to advise us about changes that are being made to the tax maps in the process of the digitizing?
Yep, and we'll try and get Jim up here, because really, it'd be best if Jim sat down with you and had a discussion. It'd probably be instructive for everybody, even people in town who are wondering what's the process. And then you really have to have him to explain it properly.
All right, in that case, I move that we move into executive session to discuss appointments and personnel.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Aye.